Hi, this is Nicholas Yock, a registered migration and education agent from Pathway to Oz. Today, I want to discuss how to obtain a skill assessment as a registered nurse. Okay, so look, registered nurses are probably the most in-demand occupation in Australia and have consistently been in demand for the last 20 years. They will consistently be in demand for the next 20 years, okay? And in order to work as a nurse in Australia, you must first get registered with Ahpra, okay? So Ahpra is the licensing body. So if you want to do an employer-sponsored visa or general skilled migration visa, we need to get you registered with Ahpra first. That's step number one. Now, there are some common requirements for registering with Ahpra. So obviously education, you need to have a relevant bachelor degree. Criminal history, that needs to be checked. Your English ability, so if you're not from a native English speaking country, then you need to do an English, IELTS, PTE test, etc. But apart from that, there are some big differences based on the registration and skill assessment depending on where you got qualified as a registered nurse. Please note, if you did study the course in Australia, it's a little bit different because obviously if you studied in Australia, the qualification meets the Australian standards, so it's a lot more straightforward. You don't need to go through most of this sort of rigmarole. Look, let's say you've got your bachelor degree, you're a registered nurse working in the field, you meet all the requirements. What's the first step? Okay, so the first step is to go to Ahpra's website and do what's called a self-check. Okay, so a self-check just asks you a few questions. It's pretty basic. And then based on your answers, they will put you into Stream A, Stream B, Stream C. Okay, so Stream A, that's the best. That's if you're from the UK, USA. And if your qualifications line up really, really well. You need to do a little bit extra, but it's pretty straightforward. Stream B is for countries which don't line up specifically well, but the qualification is there. So there's a lot more to this skill assessment, which is what I'm going to focus on. And Stream C is your qualification doesn't really align, so you got to go back and study, essentially in Australia for it. So you're from the Philippines, for example, you submit your self-check and they say, great, you got to do Stream B. All right. The next step is to follow up with the orientation and pay the administrative fee to Ahpra. Following this, you will then need to upload a bunch of your portfolio documents, proof of qualifications, all that stuff. The next step is a written test. All right, so you can do this written test anywhere in the world. You don't need to be in Australia to do it. All right, so let's say you do that written test, you pass. The next step is the OSCE. All right, so this is a practical assessment which is only done in Australia. So I believe it's in Adelaide and Melbourne where you need to do it. But obviously, if you're not in Australia, you do need to get a visa to come out. So you could do a tourist visa, or if you're studying a related course, you could do that, which would be great. Essentially from there, once that comes approved, you can apply for your registration with Ahpra, which will allow you to be registered to work as a nurse in Australia. Once you've got that, you can, do the skill assessment and apply for the different work visa options. But that is the full process there. It does take a while, but honestly, I think it's really worth it, just in regards to how in demand the occupation is. Now look, if you maybe don't meet the requirements, or even if you are a registered nurse overseas and you're just looking to do it in a smoother fashion, you could maybe look to come to Australia and study a complementary course like a Diploma of Community Services, Diploma of Mental Health, something like that, which will give you plenty of time to actually do this onshore, get the skill assessment, and then look at the different work visa options from there. Alternatively, studying in Australia, just completely redoing the course if your qualification isn't up to scratch is an option. You might actually be able to get credit from your previous study, which will shorten the bachelor down. The benefit of this is that you get the graduate visa when you finish the course. I think registered nurses are the most in-demand occupations. It's not going to change. I would strongly recommend anyone who is really keen to get permanent residency in Australia to, potentially look at nursing if you are open to, increasing your skill set and becoming more eligible. Look, I hope you find this information helpful. It is general in nature. But if you do have any questions, feel free to contact Pathway to Oz. Thank you.